anyways, let's finally get into the last bit of the show, which is the Spartacus review.
Sounds like a plan to me. I need to end this on a high note.
Yes. For those of you unaware, there was a movie back in in the year 1960, called Spartacus, and it starred Kirk Douglas.
Who's still alive, by the way.
Who's still? Yeah, I was surprised. I thought he had passed away, but he is still alive. I think he's like at least 100 now.
He's over 100.
Oh shoot! Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yes, Kirk Douglas, father to Michael Douglas. He plays the titular character of Spartacus, a Thracian slave in the time of the Roman Republic.
Before it became the
Empire. Although there was a lot of empire talk within the movie, like between like senators and things like that.
Yeah, well, there was Caesar before he became the emperor.
Right, Caesar before he became like the Caesar.
Yeah.
Yes, and so Spartacus is a slave, and he is bought up and put into a gladiatorial school where they take slaves and they train them to be fighters and to ultimately fight in arenas and maybe even the Colosseum. And Spartacus then leads a revolt, a slave revolt. This is actually kind of based on history.
The Third Servile War is the war that was used to portray.
Exactly. So he leads a revolt of slaves, and their ultimate goal is to leave Italy. But the Roman Senate is not going to have that, because they know that if they allow them to leave, or they allow them to revolt and then ultimately leave, then it'll potentially spark a revolt, within the entirety of the Roman Republic and Roman territories. And back then they loved them slaves.
It was a little bit of you get a little bit of both sides. You get you have Spartacus and the slaves that are revolting, but yet you also have an internal struggle between the senators. You have the one who wants to destroy, destroy the rebellion, and there's a couple other senators who want to just let them go. We're already fighting. They're already talking about we're fighting 2 or 3 other wars. We have other issues at hand.
Right.
We don't have the men and the money to spare to get rid of these guys.
Exactly. Yeah, because they were already in a war, like in Spain, and I think, were they still fighting the Carthaginians?
I think that was I believe that's who they were talking about. I don't remember, but yeah.
Yeah, because they do mention Pompey in Spain. So so we know for sure, they were at least in the movie, they were fighting a war in Spain, maybe with Carthage, which is northern Africa.
But yeah, it was.
And so Spartacus leads his revolt, and he's going through Roman towns, collecting gold and stuff. And they broker a deal with some pirates to transport them back to their country of origins, or within walking distance, or within traveling distance from their countries of origin, and then they're ultimately betrayed because the Roman Senate gets involved and pays off the pirates to not help them.
Yeah.
And so, which forces, and then the Romans get 2 armies to come and converge on them, ultimately forcing Spartacus's hand to march on to Rome, and ultimately to his death and to the death of the slave rebellion.
Yeah, and that all sounds very dreary, but of the Stanley Kubrick films that we've watched thus far, I think this one actually had maybe the happiest ending of them
Right.
all.
Yes.
Uh,
Because yes, spoiler alert: Spartacus gets crucified, but his wife and child are freed.
yeah,
So, but yeah, so yeah, that's the kind of quick summary of Spartacus. Like Robert was saying, this was probably one of the more happier endings for a Stanley Kubrick film.
yeah,
But
it,
also, it is also one of the most like commercial, I would say, like very like by the books, by 1960 standards movie from him as well.
right. Something I've noticed with the films that we've watched thus far, and there's the way that they end tend to be in a more of a dark or slash realistic way. There isn't the typical Hollywood ride into the sunset, everything's hunky dory type of ending. And I think that's somewhat like life as well, where the it's not life doesn't just isn't as clean cut in that sense. Where obviously we want Spartacus to win the rebellion, to gain his freedom, and everyone to make it out safely. But the reality is that, well, A, he's a real person, and that didn't happen. But then B, even if it is a movie, but yeah, Kubrick wanted to be realistic, and then it's like that's really not how things would be. There would be a lot of death, and the characters and the people that we care about, they're more likely not going to make it. Um, there might be a handful that do end up escaping, but for the most part, it's going to be yeah. That's pretty much the end of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what I did like about it, obviously, you have several different storylines that are going on within the movie. You have obviously Spartacus and the challenges that he faces as a slave and going to the gladiatorial school, the conflicts he has with his captors.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you also have a struggle with the between the elites within the Senate. And you kind of see the struggle that they're working at to gain power and to manipulate Rome to their advantage, and all of that affects Spartacus and the rebellion, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's all connected in a sense. And uh, for a time, Spartacus and the slaves, they do kind of fight and gain their freedom, and there is happiness in that Spartacus finds love. He saves one of the slave women that he had that he favored, and was able to protect her, and
Right. Yeah. His
and
wife.
got married. Yeah, got married to her, and his whole goal. When that happened, his whole goal changed. It wasn't just, obviously he wanted everyone to make it out safely, but his goal then became like, I want to protect. He wanted to protect his wife, and then he wanted his son to be born free and to be able to live out in freedom. And
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, that goal was accomplished. Because, well, obviously Spartacus dies for that to happen, but before
Mm-hmm.
he dies, he was able to see that his son is, and his wife told him, your son is born free and he'll know freedom for the rest of his life.
Right.
So in a sense, it's like he accomplished his mission,
Exactly.
which is, I thought that moment was really touching the film. That it's one of those like bittersweet moments.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. Especially
you know,
especially just before the end when he pisses off Crassus, and then which forces or which incites Crassus to have Spartacus and his friend Antonius fight to the death, and then you know each one is trying to kill the other
like as fast as possible.
as
like,
fast
so
as
they-
possible, because the ultimate, like, the victor ends up getting crucified. And so because
Right.
they have such love for each other, they're each trying to kill the other as quickly as possible. And
They don't want to give them the joy of seeing them fight to the death.
right. And it was very touching when because Spartacus ultimately wins. I don't know if you want to technically call it winning, but yeah, he wins the fight. He kills his friend Antonius, and like the exchange just before Antonius dies is, I think, also very touching, where he's like, basically Antonius says, like, oh, I love I'll love you like the father that that or yeah, I'll essentially, like, I'll love you like a father, and then Spartacus to Antonius says, oh, I'll love you like the son I'll never get to see.
Yeah.
And then I don't know about you, Rob, but that little
was,
exchange, that like really got to me. I was like, oh god dang, man, right in the feels.
That was a rough scene for me too.
Yeah, but then I mean, ultimately he does get to see his son, just before he dies, and so I think that is again another like great scene.
Yeah.
Also, this movie is important in that it was written by blacklisted writer Dalton Trumbull.
Yep. Yeah.
He was a writer in Hollywood, and because of his affiliation with the Communist Party here in America, he was blacklisted. And this was like during like the McCarthy era. And but even though he was blacklisted, he still wrote scripts for movies and stuff under pseudonyms. And it wasn't until Spartacus that the whole era of like blacklisting ended, because Kirk Douglas stood up and gave Dalton Trumbull his the credit that was due to him.
Yeah, and say what you will about that, but it's kind of it was a very well written movie.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, as much as I'd disagree, with his politics. He sure knew how to write.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The so yeah, like the thing I liked about the movie was it is get ready to have some snacks and drinks in your stadium pal ready, because it is a long one.
Right.
But it moves at a pace where like you don't realize that it's quite that long.
Yeah, no, the pacing is really good. Hardly even.
It's one of those movies that it's necessary for it to be that long, just because there is a lot of things going on in the film, but they're all like important. They're all important to the story. They're all important to how the characters develop, and I didn't feel like there was anything particularly unnecessary for the like a unnecessary scene or anything like that in the film. So while it is long, the pacing was good. I liked the character interaction. I felt like
I was gonna say another great moment in the movie was like kind of in the midpoint, like just before the rebellion in the gladiatorial school breaks out. Spartacus has is paired to fight this guy that he has an interaction with previously, and and the other gladiator isn't able to bring himself to kill Spartacus, and that ultimately leads to his death at the hands of the Roman spectators that came to the school to watch them fight.
Yeah. Well, I think the other another great moment from the film.
But like the reason why, I'm sorry, I got distracted. But just quickly, the reason why it was so powerful for me was because in a previous scene, we were getting to know like the different gladiators, and Spartacus was trying to introduce himself, and I guess that gladiator was at the school for a while, and Spartacus asks for that guy's name, and he's like, nope. And then Spartacus he's like, what's the deal? I'm just trying to be friendly. And he's like I don't want to. I don't need to know your name. I don't want to know your name. It's like because one day we might find ourselves in the arena, and
I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna kill you. And that and it was powerful in that sense.
That he just decided not to kill.
Yeah, because that other guy had the advantage, and he was like ready to kill Spartacus, but then they had that thing where they they look into each other's eyes, and there's like this mutual respect or whatever, and then so that and again he the other gladiator turns on the captives, and then he's ultimately killed. But I think it was very powerful because even though they weren't technically friends, they that other gladiator was like, why are we killing each other?
Yeah, the scene that I really liked, and this is one of probably the oft mentioned scenes of the film, is towards the end where they've know Spartacus and the group, they know they've lost, they were defeated in battle, and a lot of them were given the option. They had a lot of reason to be mad at Spartacus for losing, and they were given the choices. All right, all of you will be spared from the cross if you give up. They'd have to go back into slavery, but they wouldn't die as long as they gave up Spartacus.
Right.
And no one initially, everyone was dead silent, and Spartacus was about to give himself up so that they wouldn't die, and everyone piped that was still alive piped that was claiming like, I'm Spartacus. No, I'm Spartacus, and they all claim to be Spartacus.
And again, another one of those great classic movie moments that that people have parodied or paid homage to.
Right, and
I think maybe one that kind of plays homage to that is in Dead Poet Society.
I was just gonna mention that.
Yeah, at the end where finally Ethan Hawke's character gains the courage, and he stands up on the desk, and Captain, my captain, and some of the other students follow suit, and it's it's not, again, it's paying homage to that moment where they're honoring their teacher, but then they're also saying that we're individuals, we're finding our voice.
Well, even that, it's not even that. They're showing it's we're unified. We're all one body and under one name, and if one of us goes, we all go.
Right. Which I think, because I saw the Trumbo biopic, and he's kind of definitely Dalton Trumbo is definitely putting a little bit of himself into this movie. With the whole blacklisting thing, and the solidarity of the people who are also blacklisted and things like that.
True, but it was still a great moment in the film.
Yeah, again, I'm not trying to take away. I'm not saying that, because, Dalton Trumbull was a communist, I can't appreciate the work that he did. I appreciate it. Again, I love that scene because I feel like the love and the camaraderie between the men, that it doesn't matter to them because, they love their leader so much that they themselves are willing to suffer the the punishment.
Well, what's your any final thoughts before you give your rating, Andy?
I mean, not really. Convich 22 is back in the chat, and he really digs Spartacus, and then he commented, "Damn commies."
Yeah. Well, it's every once in a while, they capture a crumb and they create something pretty decent. Tetris is one of those.
I know, right?
One
Tetris.
Of those things. That was made by a commie.
Exactly.
But every once in a while, they'll catch a little bit of a crumb and they actually make something good out of it.
Right. Yeah. I just have to say that this is I really like this movie. Again, this is like a sleeper Kubrick film. He actually doesn't include it in his canon. Probably because of the kind of paint by numbers kind of commercial feel that it has. Like, it was very, you can if no one ever told you that it was Stanley Kubrick, you wouldn't believe it.
I've known of this film. I haven't seen it before, but then when we were coming out with the movies we were going to watch in our Kubrick month, I was like, Stanley Kubrick is attached to this film, and I didn't believe it. So
right.
It definitely wasn't of the same ilk as some of his more better known works that we've seen.
Right.
And he may not have had the same type of control over this one that he's had in his other films.
He didn't, because Kirk Douglas was the executive producer on this one, and then also, Stanley Kubrick was a replacement for another director who had I forget who dropped out because of the first director was having too many clashes with Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, that there was a lot of this movie ended up having a lot because Kirk Douglas was tapped to play Ben-Hur, but that ended up not working out. They ended up going with Charlton Heston instead. And so this movie got made in the sense that it's another Ben-Hur type of movie.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a sword and sandals movie, and what is it? Yeah, it's definitely a sword and sandals movie, and it takes place within the same time period as Ben-Hur.
Right. So yeah, it definitely doesn't have the same Kubrick feel. So if that's something that you are looking for, maybe this won't be the movie for you. But if you're just looking for a really good film, this one I can't recommend highly.
Well, I mean, what is it? The Library of Congress, added it to its list of culturally significant works. Where I think they should actually saved a copy of what is it? They saved an actual film reel copy of the film because of its because of its epicness and just its cultural significance.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Yes. Really quick, Convich 22. Yes, those are Patron bottles, really tiny ones. They're like personal shot ones. I got them at a wedding this past weekend.
Yeah, Andy's drinking Patron on the live stream.
Yes.
Did you just get the one, or did you get like a bunch of them?
I got like 3. I had one there with the groom.
Okay.
I had one there with the groom, and then I took 3 home with me.
Nice.
Yeah. But anyways, back to the review. Scale of 1 to 5. I would give this. Like a 3 3/4, maybe a 4.
Oh wow, that's lower than I thought you were gonna go with this. I had to say, for me, it was a 4.5.
4.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really like this movie.
Okay. Yes. I mean, I still like this movie too, but
I would say this movie is near my it came close. It's probably within my top 10 now. That
it's what?
this is, I would say, after watching this, I watched it a couple times actually. I would say this is probably in my top 10.
Okay. Oh yeah. Me too.
That's why I have it like pretty highly. That's why I rate it so high. I like the dialogue. I like the characters. I like the complexity of the storylines between characters. Had great action. So one of my favorite scenes was Spartacus drowning the guard in the pot of boiling soup.
Yeah, he just found out. What is it? He just found out that the slave girl, Verenia, that was her character's name. Verenia was being sold off to Crassus.
Yeah.
Yeah. The senator. She was being sold to him, and then he's like, he lost his shit, and then attacked the head instructor, and and proceeded to drown him in a pot of boiling soup.
Great moment.
Yeah. That was pretty badass. But it's funny because, like, I don't know, maybe it's because of the heat of the moment, but you think that the soup would be burning Spartacus as well.
True, but he, it's like, at this point, it's like he just wanted that guy to die.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I understand. Like, yeah, and like in real life, maybe, it was like, if he like flashes white and like just goes on a rager, then I can understand, like, the adrenaline's pumping and he's not like feeling everything, and so.
Yeah. So yeah, 4.5 stars for me. Great movie. Definitely it's a must watch.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion. It's one of those great movies of all time.